Hello, friends. Welcome back to another game review. Sorry for looking all clean shaved and everything. I tried out a new razor and it was pretty effective, I gotta say, but it's been weird. I don't think I've been this smooth in quite a while. But this game review today will be talking about Generation Zero. Generation Zero is a game that came out. Let me get the exact date. I know it came out in 2019. But let me just make sure I know exactly date. March 26th, 2019, it was released developer-wise and published by Systemic Reaction, which is an Avalanche Studio Games based out of Sweden. Pretty much the premise of the game is you're set in the 80s in like a more fictional Sweden um, that's been taken over by robots that were part of a secret program um, that and pretty much you're a teenager. That's why you're not like drafted to the war, I think, initially, but you still try to come and fight as much as you can, especially because you have no choice in the matter. The game is wonderful, is amazing. I love Generation Zero. Um, Currently, one of the only qualms I ever have about it is just I don't have enough content that I think would bring me back for like a full session. There's a lot of content being added, but it's mostly small stuff such as DLCs about guns and such. Otherwise, the game is amazing. It is amazing. Um, First off, gameplay wise, it feels kind of like an old style shooter, I want to say, but if you amped it up to being modern day, the reason I say that is because it kind of feels like almost like Half Life or Black Portal or something like that. But if you kind of, it feels like if those systems were brought into modern, like a more modern day setting, and given a more like kind of realistic touch, it kind of feels like that. Oddly enough, I don't know how to explain it. That's the best way I could explain it as. What happens a lot in the game is facing off against the robots feels much more of a horror aspect than necessarily just a combat aspect. You have plenty of weapons to fight against these robots, uh, such as a whole set of things: rocket launchers, assault rifles, sniper rifles, pistols, SMG, shotguns, all the likes. They all feel pretty solid. Now, there are some guns that you will likely play with off the bat because you get them sooner, and then just disregard because either they use the exact same kind of ammo as a better gun, or you just don't really care for them that much, I would say. Um, Not to say they're bad. There's just it does have that step of guns being better than the last kind of iteration you'll find. The customization is pretty solid in this game. You don't really get to pick how to customize your actual character themselves. You have to pick like a preview, but you do get a bunch of clothing options throughout the game. They introduce armor sets into the game that do a couple different things. Nothing that's like completely game changing or anything, but you know those buffs that up defensive stuff and all that. It is a game that is still currently in development, I believe, for the most part. It is, I believe, released. I don't believe it is in early access anymore. Let me just check. Yes, it has been fully properly released. It's no longer an early access game, but they're still, of course, working on things. They may add things here and there. Um, the game is a very loose RPG, if you're going to even call it that. They do have like skills things and everything, but they're really small modifiers to how you actually play the game. None of them change gameplay at all drastically. Things like, oh, you get more backpack space to allow you to carry more things, or you get more sprinting ability or stuff like that. Now, there are a couple skills, though, I will say, in the game that add a truly different kind of thing. Um, Such as you get to be able to pick up a certain robot type and send it out as your own, which is really cool. You get to like spot them and see for weaknesses on enemies and everything. A few different things that definitely add quite a difference in gameplay, but um, the robots themselves are really the highlight, I want to say, of this game. They feel incredible to fight against. Not too many games do robots that often anymore. I know they're kind of hard to do, where you make them either feel really cool or it's easy to make them feel real gimmicky or just kind of boring. Um, but these robots feel amazing because they don't really feel they feel like robots, but they feel more like animals kind of that you come across. They don't um they aren't like crazy high Terminator things. I even make a lot of jokes when I was playing the game that one of them, which is called a harvester, which is like this huge like quadruped kind of robot that usually is the purpose is to call in other reinforcements, but also have a huge rocket launcher on back. Um, I just see it out in the distance, and uh, I would like honestly kind of look at it like a cow just grazing in the distance. This game is beautiful, by the way. Uh, if I was gonna start rating aspects alone by themselves, the visuals of Generation Zero are above a 10 out of 10. That game is gorgeous. That studio is incredible. Um, Systemic reactions under Avalanche, but I think Avalanche also makes, of course, Hunt Call the Wild. I won't be talking about that game for quite a bit. It's one of the most well-designed hunting simulators out there, but hunting can be boring. I'll tell you that much. But no, they made that game too. Both of them look just like better than most AAA titles, I want to say. I don't think there's that many games that counter it very well in like almost realism. Like it's very close to realism, but like such a small tweak of like such a interesting character design to the whole game that I think it's honestly one of the best looking games to exist on any platform at the moment. I do believe that wholeheartedly as well. That game, if you want to go into it for visuals alone, I would recommend it almost. Um, that's another game that I would highly recommend the tourist kind of mode. Especially if you want to do the tourist mode where the things become pacified. That way you can really look at these monsters. I've had the joy of some of them bugging. By the way, this game is not like without its bugs. It does have its bugs. Most of them are not game breaking. There was a few back in the day that didn't help. That were like almost gonna break because you couldn't really play with friends. It would just boot you all the time. But they've since then fixed it. But most of the little bugs here and there, some little tears in the terrain sometimes, but otherwise, my absolute favorite bugs is that sometimes the robots wouldn't attack you for no reason. They would just sit still and do nothing. Even sometimes they might move around a little bit. This happened with two types for me. This is not like a complaint. This is actually, I love this. It's funny. I love it. It was a tick, which is the smallest enemy you can come across, which are little kind of um pest robots. They're more there to like distract you than anything. They do hurt you, but not very much. Which are like these like almost like this size kind of guy. Those are perfect for a figurine, by the way. Make a life size figurine. Perfect. Um and then also a tank, which is the other largest kind of robot you can find. It's a bipedal, huge like robot. Um Having that thing break on you like that is the greatest thing ever. As this game does have a photography mode. I think most games at least should have a little bit of a photography mode. It's kind of fun. I kind of felt like a journalist or like a wartime photographer in that game because I really did take probably over 100 plus pictures in that game. Just because the game was just beautiful, like I said, but otherwise was just allowed some really fun pictures to be taken. So getting both those bugs in there was really cool. I enjoyed it a lot. Uh, Onto the robots, I do want to talk about because they're such the bread and butter of the game. Like I said, the tick being the smallest, the next one up is going to be technically it's like this little alarm drone that you can come across. They fly around. Their main purpose is they don't actually hurt you, but they call in reinforcements if you don't take them out fast enough. They can really make a battle last quite a while if you don't happen to take care of it because it will keep going off. It will keep bringing reinforcements until you take it out. So if your purpose is to just uh, get not have to deal with them anymore, just take them out as fast as possible. If you'd like a bit more of the combat, you can leave them on for a little bit, and they'll just keep bringing you guys to loot and everything. Just make sure, of course, you have the ammo to do it. Um, Next up would be their all of them. Oh, they're dogs. They have a name though, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But uh, pretty much they're your high speed, kind of really get in your face, kind of mobile assault little drone. They look like dogs. They have little canisters on their back. A really good take to note. The game will try to mostly teach you how to take out robots, but there are some things that are pretty easy to find out, but are fun to know off the bat, which is um, they have little canisters on their back. If you take out that canister, it'll explode. Sometimes they'll die. Most of the time they'll die, but otherwise, sometimes they'll just kind of still hang on a little bit, and you'll have to pop them off a few more times. Next up are hunters. Are kind of these huge, more man-shaped robots. They come very quickly towards you and try to like either shank you, or they will have guns of some type to try to like assault you from afar. Next up, they've recently added a few new kinds of robots to the game. I won't talk too much about the story, but there's a different faction that has robots now that are sent in. You're not facing any humans. There are some humans in the game, but they're not enemies. Um, but you're only facing robots, and so these other robots, you got this huge double robot in a sense. One, it's like a tank that carries around robots and shoots at you. That has these little ball-shaped robots that will be sent out to kind of be like the dogs almost, and just come towards you and try to pop you from closer range. Those are really cool. Those are wonderful design. I think those are really awesome. Next up, of course, was the tank. The tank being that bipedal one that can shoot you from way far away, get up really close. If you get too close, he'll try to stomp on you. And I think similar with the harvester, which will, of course, bring in units, mainly just hunters mainly. They do have ticks on them as well. Sometimes they'll drop them out and try to get you with those. But they're typically your biggest unit you're gonna face against is probably the harvesters. They did also really recently, introduce a new other factioned unit, which is like a flying drone. That's more combative, has like a machine gun on it that can shoot you from afar. I haven't quite faced them yet. I haven't seen them when I tried to play it originally, so I'll have to go back and then try it out. One of the interesting things about the robots is they have tiers. You'll have your prototype, which is your weakest tier. They tend to have just machine guns. They'll break very easily. They're going to be the first ones you'll encounter in the game, especially the dogs mainly. Those are the first ones you'll likely encounter. Next up is military. They're a bit faster, more durable. They also tend to come with different guns. I believe the dog ones come with shotguns. And the hunters come with like kind of a high speed ballistic missile that'll like pop on you if it hits you. Um, then you'll have your hunters and tanks or your tanks and uh, your tank for one has like a long range mortar. That thing is hard to dodge. I'd recommend trying to get a little bit closer to that one because that mortar is almost like impossible to dodge. And then the harvester gets a missile turret, I think, at that point too. I think the prototype harvester has nothing on it to defend itself, so it just brings in other things to defend it. Then you have your Phoenix class, I believe, is the next one up. Makes them black and red. They're a bit more, of course, way more formidable. They do adjust their weaponry in that one as well. I can't remember that one as much, but I know it's more rockets than machine guns, I believe, for that class. And lastly is your Apocalypse class. These things are scary, very scary. Unless you have a certain gun, these things will take you a long time and just be a menace. The harvesters or the hunters get like flamethrowers and everything, and like poison gas. Poison's like a big hurt thing in this game. I think most of the apocalypse just ends up getting a bunch of poison stuff alongside their already pretty harmful things. Um, One of the best things in this game, as well, is your guns do have what are called experimental types. Experimentals are kind of this game's heavy duty super guns that you get from fighting the toughest enemies. And sometimes these enemies aren't the toughest, they're considered your nemesis system kind of thing. They get more powerful as you take out enemies in their territory. When you take them out, they have a chance of dropping an experimental, except for a few of the experimentals are locked behind an apocalypse class that is set on a different island. And it takes, you got to get that one really high up in level for it to have that pretty good chance of dropping. They may have changed that since then. They may have changed the drop rate since then, but that's what I remember. Um, these experimentals range and have from most things and have crazy effects on them. You have your basic SMG. When it's experimental, it has this kind of hybrid mode. I call it the dentist drill because it sounds like one. It's going so fast, it sounds like a dentist drill. Very cool. The shotgun, I believe, is electric rounds afterwards, I believe. Uh, the rock. I don't know what the rocket does. I know one of them has ricochet kind of things to them, which is the LMG, I think. Assault rifles are kind of cool, but they don't have that many cool experimentals, in my opinion. They may be getting an update pretty soon for that. But by far, I'm telling you this now. You get your hands on the 50 cals experimental for the sniper rifle. Me and my friend actively started hunting robots. It felt amazing. It felt such a turn in the game with that thing. So be wary. You really want kind of a broken experience where you're not really afraid of the robots anymore. Go with that sniper rifle. That thing will decimate. I could take down a prototype in like 4 shots, 5 shots maybe with that thing. I'm saying prototype like tank or harvester. Either one, it could probably go down 4 shots with that thing. So you want a broken game, play with that. If you don't want a broken game, I'd recommend the rest of the experimentals because they'll still give you kind of a fair fight, but a little bit of an advantage. Speaking of experimentals, the robots technically have them, and that's the form of Phoenix robots, or not Phoenix specifically, but your they have one specific one right now. I don't believe they've added any since, which is the tank has an experimental version called. Oh my god, I really want to know. I forget his name entirely. He's a type of one, but he's huge. He's amazing to fight. Incredible. It's like fighting like a kaiju or something like that. Um, you're mainly facing it. He has like a nuclear detonation mode where if he gets that off and you're in it, that's I think an insta kill. You have to be behind surfaces when you're fighting him. You'll have like this huge shockwave thing he'll do. There's so many things he does. Actually, I think his nuke thing is when he's about to die. So if you see him start like kind of exploding slowly, just get behind cover at that point. He gives you the best stuff in the game, including some of those high end experimentals. Um, Super fun to play against. I hope they really start adding a lot more of those in the future. I would almost like an experimental every type of enemy because that'd be amazing to fight against. Um, that's pretty much it. This game does offer quite a bit of hours of game time. I would like to tell you mine because I actually have a pretty high game time of 111 hours. Now, the main story and everything could probably be beaten in 40, I want to say. It has a ton of side missions. So I'd give it about a 60 to 70 completion rate, probably 60, 70 hours. Um, if you want to go through all of it. But uh I do recommend going through it a lot. They've recently added a few new things, which is you can go through New Game Plus with a character, you can go through um the same world with a new character and all that. So it's really cool. They've been really putting some hard work into this. I do heavily recommend it. Currently it is, I think, fairly cheap for just a little longer. Yes, $5 at the moment. Now I believe this offer ends. Oh, never mind. You won't be able to get it. I'm sorry. Offer ends in 5 minutes, and there's no way this is getting posted in 5 minutes. So it will be going back to that $25 mark. That's still a good price. I still recommend it for that price. You can actually get. Wow, what the heck? That's really odd. Does this just add? I think this might just add the DLCs and stuff to the game. So $18. Um, I do recommend getting some of these DLCs. A lot of them are really good. Some are free. They've been adding a bunch of free DLCs, so that's telling you a lot about this game. Um, Otherwise, it is currently going to be probably $25. Highly recommend it. Get maybe see if a friend wants to get it. It's really good with friends. I do think it would still be pretty amazing by yourself as well. But that'll be it for this review. As always, I like to ask you to like and comment. If you have played Generation Zero, what is your favorite robot to fight against, or what is your favorite weapon to play with? Is it the absolutely broken experimental BF 50 cal, or do you enjoy some of the other guns, including the non-even experimentals? They're really good too. No matter what, the rocket launcher is fun to play with. That's always a joy. They've also introduced a grenade launcher as well, which is cool. Um, also, what do you hope to see in the future for this game? What do you like the most about it, and what do you want it to improve upon? If you haven't played it, then have I kind of pushed you to play it, or is it something that feels like maybe not up your alley or anything, which is not a bad thing, but I do recommend it though. And as always, I'd like to ask you to subscribe if you do think you're wonderful. If you don't, I still think you're wonderful, so it's completely up to you. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.